welcome to the Insomnia Project. Sit back, relax, and listen as we have a conversation about the mundane. One thing that we can promise is that our conversation will be less than fascinating so that you can feel free to just drift off. Thank you for joining us. We hope you will listen and sleep. I'm your host, Marco Timpano, and joining me in the studio today is Ron Pederson. Welcome to the Insomnia Project.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Now, Ron, I've seen you perform on stage, and I was wowed. I was wowed. You were in the show, and you just mentioned it, and I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, right. That was Extinction Song.
Fantastic.
That play, yeah.
And you perform all over.
Yeah.
That's right. So if people want to find out more about you or where you're performing, they can look in our show notes.
Oh, great.
But I discovered that you're also a runner.
Yeah. I've always sort of ran when I moved to Los Angeles years ago, and that's sort of when I became a little bit more active, just by nature of living there, and going to the gym and being on television, and I kept up the running, I suppose, and the working out. And then about 5 years ago, I cut booze out of my life, and so that became, I had a lot more time on my hands.
Sure.
Yeah. So I started running in earnest. I mean, I'm not insane about it. It's just like, it's very addictive, and it's, I don't feel myself if I don't do it.
Tell me about running in Los Angeles versus in other parts of the world.
Well, there's not a lot of street life in Los Angeles. It's hard to find a good spot. You kind of have to drive to where you want to run. Right. That might be in the canyon or that sort of thing. But honestly, I've come to really like running on a treadmill.
I see.
Because I like to see the numbers. I like to see the numbers, and I like to, when I'm done, I don't like to have to walk home. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like if I decide, okay, I'm only going to do 3 miles today instead of 5. Then I don't have to turn around and walk home after 3. You know what I mean?
Right. So you've done your walking, or your running, I should say.
That's right.
But you don't have to then return.
That's right. And I just like to see the numbers, and I know there's apps for that sort of thing, but it's just like comfort on the treadmill. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I run about 6 miles 3 or 4 times a week. That's like 4 hours out of my week. Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
You mentioned Los Angeles. Is there something that you remember about Los Angeles that you kind of miss? That you're like, they used to do this in Los Angeles and it can be something small and insignificant.
Yeah, the things that I miss most about Los Angeles are the restaurants, actually. Okay. Yeah. I can think of, like, whenever somebody asks me what's the best food I've ever eaten, I can think of 5 particular places in Los Angeles, particular meals and that sort of thing. I was just saying, there's a Korean barbecue that I really like there. It's like a charcoal barbecue, which it's hard to find. I don't know what the legalities are on that, because it's like a big you sit at a table with a pit in the middle, and usually in Toronto and that sort of thing, it's gas. They come by and turn the gas on, and you have a little grill. This is like full-on charcoal that they fill the table with. So we used to leave our jackets in the car, because you'd end up leaving and just reeking of charcoal.
There's something lovely about food cooked on charcoal.
Yeah.
Or over wood.
Yeah, I don't know what it was about that particular food, but I mean, the charcoal certainly, but I used to think they marinated it in heroin, because you'd just be thinking about it days later. My girlfriend at the time and I would go on a Monday, and by Wednesday we're like, we could probably go again on Thursday,
How are you on long flights?
I'm a bit of a nervous flyer.
How are you?
You know what? I was, and I used to take an Ativan and just like chill out. But I also meditate. I started meditating back in Los Angeles. And then, again, much like the running, it was something that was a tool that came into place after I quit drinking.
Sure.
And I love it. It's a game changer for me, the meditation.
Is that a daily ritual you do?
Yeah,
as well?
I do.
That's great.
I took a workshop in LA years ago with a guy named Tom Knowles, Knowls, who's a really fine speaker about it. And so it's a workshop where you learn the technique, and gives you a little mantra, and sends you on your way. And that's it. It's just a mantra-based meditation. I do 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And, I learned it in Los Angeles, and I used to sort of dabble here and there, and I'd go for a month and then go, okay, that's enough.
Right.
But in earnest for the last 4 years, I think I've only missed a couple of days here and there, and just a session. A day hasn't gone by where I haven't done it at least once.
Wow.
And sometimes I dabble with doing it for an hour, just sitting, and if you can get in with the mantra and, chill out, it's
Do you have a
magical.
particular spot where you do it, or do you do it anywhere?
Well, I remember him saying, well, it's tricky, right? Because you never know where you're going to be at like 5 o'clock. I try to do it before dinner. And so it's often, I've done it everywhere. I've done it on a plane. I've done it in a dressing room. Tom Knowles said, there's always going to be a distraction, no matter where you are. Even if you're in a quiet room like this, you'll eventually hear the buzzing of the light or some sort of white noise. Maybe not so bad much in here. It's pretty nice in here. I could meditate in here.
Okay.
But
maybe I should make this studio meditation
that's
studio.
Right. Get some incense going.
Oh, I should.
But I remember him saying, if you can't meditate in a boiler room with you can't meditate anywhere, right? Because the point is just to allow everything.
Sure.
And but usually, in the morning I wake up, make the bed, and just hit my couch.
And there you go.
Yeah.
And off you go. It's interesting. You mentioning that reminded me of something that I sort of rediscovered recently, which is there's never a good time to do something, but just the art of doing, or just the sort of motion of doing it whenever and letting it get out there is the important part.
Yeah, and that's what I find with, whenever I'm not evangelical about it. I'm not converting anybody to meditation. I believe in it. I think it could help everyone with different aspects of everything. And I'm not. I don't push it, but I believe it's a game changer. Yeah, for sure.
What else do you believe in? That you're like, I believe in this and it works for me, or I think it's a great thing. And it doesn't have to be anything like meditation or
religion or anything.
Yeah.
Well, what comes to mind is this, this we were talking about meditation and this idea of allowing. And, there's the Taoist, it's more of a philosophy, I think, Taoism, which is a lot about allowing and humility. There's a great book called the Tao Te Ching, which is essentially the script for the Taoist philosophy, and it's a series of little poems that have been translated over the years. And originally it was written by this guy named Lao Tzu, with this written to people on how to govern a country, quote unquote. But you are that country essentially, and so it's how to find balance within yourself, and a lot of it has to do with allowing and deep humility and being like water, getting low underneath things, and it's a leadership thing as well. Like to lead people, you stand behind them, and so this philosophy. Also tapped into the philosophy of improvisation in a lot of ways, allowing, making your partner look good, listening, that sort of thing. So I really tapped into this idea of the Taoist philosophy, and practicing it is a really fascinating thing. How it also presence, being very present, right? Like getting out of your thought. The meditation is like, how can you relinquish thought? And the Taoism is, okay, how much can you allow? And both of them together are a lot about presence, about how can I just be here now.
Cool the way you also take a philosophy that is meant to govern and you bring it into your work life and your daily.
Well, yeah, it's almost parallel. It's like, oh, this is like acting. It wasn't like, oh, I have to put this into it or put improv into acting. It's just it reveals itself as all one thing. We
were talking with Kerry Griffin about improv in a previous episode.
He's a marvelous improviser.
He's fantastic. One thing that is important, or is, I forget the question I asked you, but is relevant to me is having a good cappuccino almost every day. For me, that's if I have a good one, it sets my day really well. Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes I have to make it myself. But what's interesting is I have all these little spots in the city that I know make great coffee.
Right.
And so I was telling a friend recently, I was in Bolton, which is it's in Caledon, north of the city that we're in, and there's a spot there that it doesn't look like anything, Ron. You'd be like, oh, it's a hot table. It doesn't, and they make the best cappuccinos. And I told a friend who we were doing a corporate workshop up there, and I said, you really need to stop and go there. And I spoke to her just yesterday, and she was like, I think I might drive 40 minutes to get a coffee there again because it was so great.
Right.
Wow, but it's amazing how little things can really make a difference in your daily life.
Yeah, that's like that Korean barbecue. It's just like, what's the point if I can't have that? Yeah,
it just made my stomach growl. You're wearing glasses. What's important to you when you get glasses? And we haven't done an episode on glasses.
Oh. I used to wear these. I did a play, and then I was like, they let me keep the glasses years ago before I even needed glasses. They were like vanity sort of glasses that I just liked wearing. I liked glasses. I liked people who wore glasses, and I thought it was a good look. And then one day I picked up my friend Kathy's glasses. We were in a pub, and I picked them up, and I put on her glasses. And I suddenly could read all the labels on the bottles behind the bar, and I could look across the street, and so that was, and I was almost in tears. I was like, "What have I been missing?" I guess that's how people realize they need glasses by
trying on Kathy's glasses.
Yeah, trying somebody else's on. So after that, I mean, the important thing for glasses is that I could see, I guess. But no, I've always just bought the same kind of glasses. Actually, just black horn-rimmed.
That's your particular style.
Yeah, utilitarian sort of classic look. Yeah, yeah.
Do you get the non-reflective glasses or lens?
Yeah, I have, and actually, I just lost a pair of prescription sunglasses.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I cannot find them anywhere. I don't know what happened to them. So it's time to get a new pair.
Hopefully, they'll turn up.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
What's important in sunglasses for you?
Well, just the prescription. I think.
Just the prescription.
Yeah.
No, like I know some lenses are like mirrored, and some are like, the Ray-Bans are kind of just a tinge of green. I don't know what that's
right.
called.
Yeah, right. They do the green with the. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not up on the. I usually just go give me the basics.
I find a lot of the character work that I do, if I wear glasses as that character, the moment I put them on my face, it's almost like I'm wearing a mask of some sort, where it's like all of a sudden the character becomes alive with the glasses. I could have every other sort of thing on wardrobe-wise, makeup-wise, but it's the moment I put on the glasses where I'm like, all right.
Yeah, you feel different.
It.
Yeah, right. I remember I did this play before I wore glasses, and the director, who did wear glasses, gave me a note that was like, Ron, nobody who really wears glasses touches their glasses that much.
Oh, wow.
I was taking them on and off in every scene. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was a bit, humiliated by that note because I was like, all right, you know what? I'm not going to touch my glasses once. You watch this. And that ended up giving me another choice for that character, which was pretty neat, actually. Like, I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to move my hands. And he became a bit more stiff in a funny way. And you just went with that choice and found where that went, and it became a whole other thing. But then eventually when I got glasses, I take them off and on all the time. It's who I am, you know. It's not so the director never touched his own glasses, so he decides everybody else shouldn't. But mine are constantly coming off and on. Yeah. Yeah,
for our listeners, Ron's taken them off about 15 times during this particular episode. All right, so we talked about running. We talked about glasses. We talked about meditating. What's something that has carried you through since you were a child to today? That young Ron does, or that present Ron does that young Ron used to do.
Well, I'm doing these improv shows right now, every day, every night. And we're playing a lot of games, improv games. And I haven't played improv games in a long time. Actually, I almost skipped that that part of improv. I never really played a lot of theater sports. The improv that I did the most was a long form. We improvised a soap opera. We'd improvise a 2-hour play. We'd improvise a musical. That's kind of my jam. So we're playing these games, and it feels like a young person's world right now. But it's also, I'm surrounded by all these people who have managed to, and I think improvisers do this well, and I think comedians do it and actors do it, and you can really do it in a healthy way, and I think it can save your life, is hanging on to the inner child in yourself, your imagination. Mm-hmm. And improv really does that for me. I feel, we're all sort of disintegrated children in a way. As adults, it's almost like we've been stripped of some of those really natural curiosity and that sort of thing. And so I would just say just that sense of play and imagination has sustained my sanity in a lot of ways. I think humor but that sense of play and that sense of play feeds itself into everything I do. I think it's like why the way I rehearse is very playful, and improv can't help but be playful. So.
Right. There's something youthful about a person who keeps that sort of sense of play. There's so much on television or in magazines or anywhere you go where it's like, use this cream, this eye cream, do this to keep this youthful appearance. Right. But when you see, for me, a person who keeps their sense of play and their sense of youthfulness and curiosity, like you said, to me that really makes a person look younger. Yeah, that's what I find.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess the people I'm working with are pretty youthful looking.
Sure.
They're certainly immature.
Mm-hmm. No, but that's not to say anybody.
I'm just joking.
But do you know what I'm saying? It's like, when I meet someone who has that sort of curiosity or that sense of play or that exuberance, that you can see that they probably, or one can see in children more than adults.
Yeah.
They always seem very youthful.
Twinkle in the eye. Yeah.
Was there a job that when you're a kid and someone asks, what do you want to be when you grow up? When you were a kid, what was the answer you would give? Mine was fisherman. I always wanted to be a fisherman.
Yeah, right. Well, I think I knew acting was my thing pretty early.
Wow.
Like I found a word for it when my neighbor, we would play in the backyard all the time, act out movies in his backyard, and he was sort of this braggart kid who was always sort of trying to be in charge of things. And when he was sort of trying to be pushy about how we were playing, you be Han Solo and you be C-3PO, he got to get in the director's chair. He said, I know how to act.
Okay.
And because I went to acting school. He's lying. Right. He was lying. And his brother was like, when did you go to acting school? And it was like, before you were born, and they're a year apart. And so it just didn't make any sense. But I remember that actors, it's a job. I remember that notion coming into my head. Before that, I wanted to be an archaeologist. Oh. Because of Indiana Jones, though. But because of a movie.
Sure.
Not because I was interested in history and excavation. But so eventually I realized, wait a minute, I can just pretend to be an archaeologist and also pretend to be a spaceman and a cowboy and a fisherman if I wanted. So so that opening up of I can be whatever I want whenever I want.
Right.
It was pretty early.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a fisherman, and then I wanted to be a cartoonist. And I don't know why.
Mm-hmm. Can you draw? You still draw?
I can draw cartoony type things, and I can draw. What's interesting is I can draw undersea life really well. So if you tell me a fish, I could probably draw it really well because as a kid, I would watch all these sort of Jacques Cousteau type shows or anything that dealt with under the water.
Right.
And so my wife is always impressed when we're watching something and I'm like, oh, and I'll name the fish. That's a sunfish. That's whatever it is, right? Or
and
when
she's
I draw,
like, how do you know that?
Or like I'll draw and I'm like, she's like, oh, look, that's a great white. I'm like, no, that's a mako shark. And I'll be like, the difference here is, and she's like, how do you know that? When you have an odd skill that people don't necessarily see, and when they see it, they're like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I have an encyclopedic knowledge of things. When I was in the third grade, I was told I had a photographic memory.
Oh.
So I memorize things really well, and if I'm interested in something, I'll remember those facts, and I'm really good at connecting sort of like, I'd be good on Jeopardy, I think.
Oh,
you know what I
man.
mean? Except for the U.S. history. That always stumps me. But I'm a pretty good trivia guy that way. So sometimes like my friends will be like, how the heck do you know that? How do you remember that? How do you know that actor's name? How do you know, and I don't know, I just remember.
What's your favorite category? What category in Jeopardy would you excel in?
Well, I think music.
Besides film and TV.
Okay, that's tricky. That's tricky. I was going to say musical theater because that's sort of my. But if it wasn't that, literature maybe. I think I do pretty well at sort of, even if I haven't read a book, I sort of, because of the improv world, you pick up on tropes and framing devices, and
you kind of
where
have to
things
learn
come
about
from.
it.
You learn a little bit about everything.
Sure.
And you kind of get a great big reference pool, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it'll be like this book about this, I'll go, oh, that's Anna Karenina, even though I've never read it. I'll sort of know. Again, it's that sort of memory, just like connectors that work for me.
Sure. You mentioned musical theater. What is a musical theater show that you think is highly underrated? I'm really being Dan Rather today. I'm really just throwing a lot of
questions. I'm going to cry. So in depth. I think, you know what, there's a musical that I always almost say is my favorite.
Okay.
Because it's so brilliant in its invention. And I'm really obsessed with Stephen Sondheim as an artist. It's sort of actually, when I started to listen to his music and read about how he worked and how much he cares about lyrics, like I almost was like, I want to be a lyricist. I almost thought of that at one point. I was like, and I did. I wrote songs and for a play in Edmonton, and it was very difficult. But he wrote a musical called Pacific Overtures. Do you know that one?
No, I don't.
Yeah, so he had all these hits, so he kind of had this chance to do whatever the heck he wanted.
Yeah.
In the 70s, he had Company and Little Night Music and Follies, and he won the Tonys, and they were great big hits.
Right.
And Sweeney Todd. And then he did this musical called Pacific Overtures, which is about the westernization of Japan.
Oh.
And it's about Commodore Perry coming and the negotiations on, so you learn all this history. But what's brilliant about the conception of the musical is that they decided, as the play went on, telling you how Japan becomes modernized and westernized and invaded in a way, changed, that the styles of theater change. Oh. So it starts with kabuki,
right,
and it slowly starts to become Western. Women start to enter the play, and so it's and then all the music that Stephen Sondheim wrote, he went and learned all these different Japanese scales and how to do it, play music differently. And so the music becomes more Western and modernized. And the lyrics and every level of it is there's so much depth and thought and care involved in it. And you never see it. Nobody produces this.
Yeah, where did you see it?
I saw it in Los Angeles when I was living there. There was a Stephen Sondheim, I think it might have been his 75th birthday or something. There was a celebration for him at the Museum of Television. And so over the month, they played everything that had ever been on television that he had been a part of. You could go and see a day of interviews or this production from Broadway that was taped for PBS. And then there was a production taped for Japanese television of the original Broadway production from the 70s. So it's quite nicely done. So I got to see the production of it, and then just became a little bit obsessed with like wow, like it's so dense and interesting. I don't think we'd have a Hamilton. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the subject matter, the challenge that he, it's nobody was doing that at the time. And he always did that with every musical. Is like, a musical could be this. It can be that. It can be, it doesn't just have to be a square box.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's fascinating. I'll have to remember Pacific.
Yeah, check it out. It's a cool show.
It'd be nice if someone brought that to today's stage.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. There's just a great big cast of Asian Americans. It's a great.
Oh, that would be a great vehicle for
all the talents
in
Toronto.
Hopefully from your lips it'll end up on stage.
Yeah.
Ron, I want to thank you so much for doing our episode, the Insomnia Project, today.
Thank you for having me.
We certainly covered a lot of ground. Is there a role that you would want to play in a musical you haven't done yet?
That is a good question. I mean, I would love to play Harold Hill in The Music Man.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty showy, fun role. That would be a fun evening. Yeah, that's up there with my favorites as well.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I just read something about The Music Man, how it's a really funny... It's a far more funny musical than people that give it credit.
Yeah.
I think it was on TV or somebody was saying that.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit dated now because it's,
Sure.
it's a bit sexist and everything from the 50s is,
Right.
They just did it at Stratford. They did a pretty cool production of that there. But, I think what's cool about The Music Man, it's written by one guy. He wrote the book and the lyrics and the music. That's very rare.
Right.
That's very rare that you get all three of those happening. And so there's a real cohesion and elegance to the thing. It's one of my faves. The book is terrific, and it is very funny.
Oh.
Yeah.
As are you. And you are also very elegant and eloquent, so thank you for being part of this
Thank you.
episode today.
Thanks for having me.
As always, the Insomnia Project is produced by Drumcast Productions, and this episode was recorded in Toronto, Canada. If you'd like, you can follow us on Twitter at Listen and Sleep. And don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher, Public Radio, wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd love to see you rate, review, and subscribe. Until the next time.